Thank you.
Yeah. We do have a quorum. We are now at item 3A, approval of our meeting minutes for February 15, 2022.
We approve the minutes as read. As stated.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Mr. McBride. Any comments or questions on the motion? All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. And we are at our information items, so if we want to walk through those.
Sure. Item A is professional development travel request for area superintendent Amanda Patty.
Mr. Bogut?
Yeah, question on that, by this individual going, understand that she's the area superintendent over the high school. How will this improve the high school? Will it lessen the fights? Will it, some of the other problems that we've had there? Is this going to something that will be brought back to Waukegan High School?
So any of the professional development that we have doesn't have an immediate impact the next day. It's going to take time, but we strongly encourage our staff members, our cabinet members to engage in professional development. So to answer your question, will it have an immediate impact? It will not. Will it help to continue to develop and build the professional capacity of one of our team members? Yes.
And I believe I see Amanda in the back. Amanda, do you want to add something? Mr. Bukovic asked a question. Amanda, what can you talk about what you expect to gain from the visit?
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent, members of the board, members of the community, my colleagues. This Principal Supervisor Academy is a national opportunity for the unique role of a principal supervisor. Principal supervisors, excuse me, there's a little feedback. It's a unique role within a district. There are a lot of moving parts to help support the development of a school principal. Some of the things that I really am excited about going around this professional development opportunity is not only making sure that the way that Waukegan is maximizing the role of the area superintendent around monitoring, developing principal supervision is also to learn from other best practices across the nation to make sure that we're calibrating around the principal performance standards for school leadership, to make sure that the communication, the monitoring systems, the feedback practices, and the ways that we are helping principals be visible and out in their campuses will be able to protect their calendars. One of the things that we, as school leaders, are faced with daily is the whirlwind, was what we call it, where there is a lot of things being thrown at us at a daily basis. And how are we maximizing the capacity of our staff and our own selves so that we can get out of the whirlwind and help support being visible in our classrooms, visible in our hallways, visible with our teachers, our staff, and our families. And so there are specific learning threads within this academy that will help support, helping make sure that as my role, I'm helping principals be effective with their calendars, with their presence, with their feedback, and with their focus. Thank you.
I had another question too for Ms. Patty. I see also that it's 3 different dates.
Yes.
So it's like an academy over time for just like 1-2 days at a time?
Correct. It's 2 days at a time. There's 6 different dates over the course of the year through July through next April. So it's 2 different. It's 2 dates each time.
Yeah, because I see some of them are on the weekend, so I like that.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I wanted to congratulate you on being selected as, it's one of 75, explain.
Sure. There's space for 75 candidates within the program nationally, and so when I applied, I was not sure, of course. There's a lot of competition out there for this opportunity, and I was very thrilled to know that I was accepted as part of the academy, so thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patty.
Any other questions on item 5A? Item 5B is the E-Rate 2022-2023 Network Projects course, which is cables and E's at AT&T.
This is just continuing some of the E-rate work regarding our infrastructure
Are there any questions from either the board or the community? Everything has been laid out with the attachments. If not, we're going to continue down to item 5C, which is the Edmentum Apex Renewal for 2022-2023 school year.
And again, this is what we use for credit recovery, the program that we use for credit recovery in our district.
I had asked for some information on how many students are serviced by Edmentum.
Sure. I can give a rundown. Is that a similar question or? Okay. So I can give a rundown of some of the statistics right now. And then we have some of the high school staff here that can add in if I miss anything. But as of 3/3/22, we have 841 courses that have been recouped through credit recovery in grades 9 to 12. This is 420 and a half credits that have been recovered since August. As of 3/3/22, 1,129 courses are anticipated to be completed based on current pacing for current students. This will be 564 and a half credits recovered since August. AOEC as of 3/1/22 has 707 credits earned, and as of the same date, 3/1, 62 students have graduated. So comparatively, in 2021, comparing last year to this year, we had 30 by the end of February last year, and then this last year had 124. That was Brookside campus. Washington campus had 194 by the end of February last year, and this last year had 693.
Ms. Vukovic?
It is. We're with the teachers. It's monitored by teachers, and then there are also teachers in the room that are also monitoring and working with the student as well.
So they're working with the students.
They are.
They're not just monitoring.
They're not just on the computer at all. They're monitoring the progress of the student. And I believe Flora is here if you want to add on if there's anything I'm missing. But yeah, it's making sure that they're also aware of what the student is engaging in and keeping the pacing as well.
And this is for the high school, correct?
This is for the high school.
So is there any, it's something I've asked quite for many communities, is there any plan to hire more staff for K, the elementary school? I mean, we all saw the data from your presentation a couple of weeks ago with scores. I am currently teaching reading in another district, and we have a school of 700, and there are 3 reading specialists, plus probably 2 math test specialists besides EL, and these are people that come in and work with very small groups of students. And I thought with the learning loss from the pandemic, that this would have fit right in with what they want the ESSER money to go for. And it seems like we're always buying another computer program where we have after-school tutoring. But is there any plan in the district to try to bring back those people, the resource people, that can pull out students into small groups to try to fill that gap? That has been, we've lost this year. I brought this up back in the summer. Could you use some of that extra money and hire reading specialists or math specialists this year? And now it's March, and we saw scores from Christmas or December, so obviously we didn't hire anybody, and we've got 2 more years left. Obviously the money dries up at that point.
So we did hire, we did look at tutoring programs. We did hire for K, for our kindergarten we were looking at one of our programs to work on phonemic awareness. So we did partner with a group to do that, which is in person in the classroom. No, that's not. There is an interface. There is a component with that you're absolutely right. But then we also, and we also looked at varsity tutors, but we have, during SBB, we've looked at providing coaches into some of the buildings as well. One of the issues that we've run into is finding finding people to do it and finding people to come in. So, and maybe you can let us know about what these other districts pay or what they're doing, and that would be helpful to us. But it is something that we've discussed to try to bring in more folks. And then there are some other tutoring companies that we've looked at that actually have in-person, that can provide us with in-person small group tutoring. Because we looked at that at the research, and we know that what the research says, that small group tutoring, especially in instances where there's been a lot of learning loss, can help to recoup that. So that we've been trying.
I've never seen it on the employment page. You were looking for reading specialists.
That's some, not necessarily reading specialists. We've looked at right now during current SPB, we've looked at opportunities to bring in additional coaches and other supports, not specifically reading specialists, but that is something that we can take into consideration.
In the numbers that you shared, what role does ombudsman play in this? In the numbers that you shared, I know you mentioned high school, but does ombudsman play a role in these numbers?
Ombudsman isn't factored into this. This is just Edmentum. So we can provide you with numbers from ombudsman if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd just like to see how
Sure.
well they're doing.
Sure, we can do that for sure.
Any other questions on this item as it relates to the Edmentum renewal? All right, D, learning without tears.
So Learning Without Tears is a cursive program that was vetted through the Curriculum Council and agreed upon, and so we've made that purchase so that we can begin to implement. We're looking to seek approval for the purchase so that we can begin the implementation.
Dr. Cesario, did you say that's just for cursive, or is it says emergent writing and handwriting, so is it?
It's a cursive program that
It is
we've
cursive. Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Thanks.
And this has been something we've been talking about for quite some time and engaging in conversations with the Curriculum Council about.
And it would be for all third grade classes around the district?
I believe that we are going to put it into the sequence of our curriculum map before 5th grade. I believe that is what the policy is, that it's before 5th grade, the students have to have cursive writing. I think we haven't, the policy hasn't been approved yet. It's going to come forward in a couple of weeks. But I believe we decided on 3rd grade is the place where it would be most appropriate.
Any questions from the community related to item 5D? Then we are at item 5E, Oakdale Elementary Professional Development Request.
Do you want to come up? Do you have any questions or?
Or it's just, if there are questions about it, I do see Ms. Catalina Keonis Nelson here. So board members, are there any questions on the item? There are attachments as far as what the request is. Any questions from the community as it relates to this item?
What's the request?
Request is for Oakdale. It's a Oakdale Elementary Professional Development request. So to send staff members to a conference that is coming up in Atlanta, Georgia.
And it's in April for,
I mean, he gave me a suggestion last time, why can't we do these conferences on Zoom?
Yeah.
But all of the things that's going on in the district, we're studies and staff out of the district to go learn what? What are they bringing back to the community? What are they teaching our teachers? What are they teaching our staff? I mean, we're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for what?
Yeah, so Ms. Keonis Nelson is behind you, and what I can say is this is a leader who is doing extraordinary things in our school, and so part of that is continuing our development. So when we talk about some of the discipline issues, I was able to see firsthand how different things like common language are used in order to make sure that the students understand how restorative justice practice is implemented. And so she is a community member who's also a principal, and so this is a request for her to build capacity to be able to continue being the instructional leader at our school. So I don't know if you wanted to, Dr. Cesar, why are they asking for the request to approve? Why do you think this will benefit your school?
So I'll let you add, but I also think that it's important too, is that Zoom is a good way to communicate, and it is a good way to share ideas. But there's nothing better than getting in a room with people, and these are folks from all around the country who are getting together. Who I'm just responding. That's all. So.
And I appreciate that, but respectfully, you guys push Zoom for our kids. So if it was good enough for our kids to learn through Zoom for as long as we did, it's just as good for the staff.
Yeah, so I'll
Just not understand.
Okay.
so I'll let Ms. Catalina Keonis Nelson come and speak.
Good afternoon, board.
Or keep speaking. So it'll capture it for the people at home.
Superintendent Placencia, Mr. Riddle, hello Adriana, Mr. McBride, Mr. Ewing, Ms. Wozniak, and community members and staff. Good to see you all. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
My name is Ray Deere.
Hi, Ray.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I am a community member, and as Mr. Ewing has said, most of the board members have been to my school. We work very hard to provide an equitable education for our students. With my teachers being present, this is the first time I've ever asked for a professional development outside, to travel somewhere. This is the Ron Clark Academy, which has 97% are African Americans that attend there. It's a very engaging school that has high retainment, and there's strategies that we want to learn to bring back to our building so that we can make it an academy just like Ron Clark. We have a lot of great things going at Oakdale. I'd invite you to come and attend. Come for a walkthrough. But we know that there's things that we can do better. We know there's things as far as educational being rigorous and really finding that equity for our students that we can take back and say, how are we doing this? Can it be better? I mean, these kids really come to this academy and learn. We're on that same page, but we could do a little better. We want to learn from that academy what we can bring back. And I would ask my teachers to say what they think they might learn at the academy as well.
At this PD, we will learn strategies for parent engagement, for student engagement. Also, it's something that I'm a dual language teacher, of course, right? This is something that we want to also bring to our dual language students, not only for our monolingual students. We've seen a lot of things that Ron Clark Academy does for their students, and we want to implement that also in our own schools, of course. It raises the bar in many levels, and we want to get to that point.
Well, I've been teaching the better part of my life. Sure, I will. I'll take it down for a minute.
There's just people at home, so the mic captures it for the people at home.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I've been teaching for the better part of my life. That's all I ever wanted to do was be a teacher. That may not answer the question of why we should go, but I think investing in teachers is essential. We did do Zoom for a very long time, and I did teach Zoom with my students. There's nothing like having a teacher in the room with kids and having a person that's vested in those kids. I love my job. I will do it until I can't do it anymore. So whether we go on this trip or not, I support my district. I've been here for most of my career, and I feel like our kids are worth having quality teachers. And that means sometimes you have to get out and see what's happening outside of Waukegan. I didn't want my own children to just be housed at school. I wanted them to be engaged in field trips and learning things outside of the community that they were raised in. So sometimes it may not seem like it's the best thing to do, but we won't get to know if it's the best or the worst until as teachers and staffs we get to experience outside of our circle to bring something new and inviting into our kids. I would welcome you in my classroom. I dance with my kids, I sing with my kids, I tell them how much I care for them. I want them to know that I am there for them. And this is what I tell them every day. I'm not there for your parents. I'm not there for your neighbors. I'm there for you. And so when I walk into the gym, I might not be able to bring them everything I've experienced, but I give them the best that I have. And when Ms. Q offered me to be a part of this trip, I thought certainly this can't be anything wrong to find out something new. So I hope that you would come to Oakdale and visit with us. I'm sure you'll be amazed at what we're doing, but we're going to get even better after this trip.
Wow. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vukovic.
Yeah, I think this is a wonderful trip.
Yeah.
You've got people here that are the front line,
Right.
frontline workers that deal with our children day in and day out. They deal with the parents. That's who should be going on this trip. That's sometimes we're seeing the same name 2, 3, 4 times a year of administrators. These are the people that, actually the teachers and parents are still waiting for the board to come up with something like you did for the administrators over Christmas break. Those are the people that you need to keep in this district.
Ms. Briscoe?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, but it's basically breaking that down to something the board needs to do more of when these type of things are placed on the agenda, because we just have it here and then we run through it and say a few words and then we just go, and this is why the public don't understand anything, because we're not explaining anything, which is why you get the lack of public support. We don't know anything. So thank you, ladies, for everything that you're doing. Keep on doing what you're doing. And I echo what you said. We have teachers and not administrators going, then maybe something just may change. So thank you.
Ms. Briscoe?
Yeah, I just want to say that, I appreciate what her school is doing. She's always doing something that's innovative and out of the box as far as her school. However, it sounds like the agenda from this conference or whatever it is something that needs to be brought back to other schools. I don't think that it should just be like siloed within Oakdale School. Because Oakdale, I sub there. I don't know a lot of great innovative things, but it needs to be brought back to other schools. I like this learn how to do parent engagement, which is something that we're challenged with, right? And so whatever else they can glean from that, my suggestion would be to bring it back to the other schools.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
No questions from the board?
No.
Nice to see you guys.
Keep doing what
Nice
you're
to see
doing,
you
and this
guys.
is exactly like people are saying is I'm a big proponent of conferences. I've been to them. I don't try and go to many, but I go to a couple, and every time I go, everything that I learn I bring back. Makes me a better board member. Makes the administrators better administrators to make the teachers better teachers. So thank you for what you all are doing, and I echo what Ms. Briscoe says is, again, when we learn, we share. And so I know that our principals meet, and if this is something that Ms. Catalina Keonis Nelson feels is great, she's going to let the other principals know. They work as a team. We have some of our area superintendents who are in here, and same thing, when they find best practice, right, they do try and bring it back. So thank you. Next up is the item 5F, DL Social Work Coordinator Bridget Dodson, attendance at the 2022 National School Social Worker Conference. It's in Chicago, Illinois, from 4/6 through 4/9 for 1,600. Again, the information is there. Are there any questions from the board and or the public?
And so this staff member, she's local, so she couldn't drive back and forth to Chicago. I mean, that's like literally, that's like a 45-minute drive. And we
So that's a great point that you're making. However, the conferences usually start around 8 a.m. And so the traffic at that time to get from here at that time to get downtown, it takes more than 45 minutes. If we were to leave now, might take 45 minutes, but at that time with rush hour and everything else, that travel time will take away from the time she has to the conference. So it's not uncommon to do that given the distance.
And again, yeah, so any other questions on this item? Item 5G, Cognitive ISP upgrade.
So this is just a
Cogent, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So this is just a platform that will help back up emails in the event that we have a failure in the district. So it's a safeguard that Josue, Dr. Cuevas and his team has worked on, and just another piece to ensure that we can keep running smoothly in the district.
So this means that you guys will answer emails eventually, and quickly. Because what happens right now is we have a system and no emails is getting answered.
So if somebody's not answering an email to you or any other staff member, can you let us know, and then we'll address that directly with that staff member. Just you can let myself know or any one of the admin.
Better yet,
Let us-
direct them to me. So any staff member who has not responded to your email within 48 hours, let me know.
Yeah, if there's an issue, let us know. This is not. This is a technical aspect of backing it up, though.
Item 5H, additional language liaison for the speech and language department.
This is to assist the Department of Diverse Learners with students that speak a language other than English, so that we can assist with IEP and other services.
Are there any questions from the board related to this agenda item? Go ahead, Ms. Wozniak.
Is this a full-time position or?
Yes.
Any other questions about this item 5H? Item 5I, summer school supplemental materials for newcomer program.
And this just we're preparing for summer school and making sure that we have what we need to serve that group of students.
And again, we are doing another Chromebook purchase, so 5J, purchase additional Chromebooks.
So this is related to the fact that some of our devices are coming to the end of their life. Chromebooks have about a 3-year lifespan, and after that time, some of the backup and some of the other pieces related to protecting the. Yeah, help me here.
Dr. Cuevas is coming to the microphone.
He can give you the technical terms, but really just to make sure that we're not putting the network at large in jeopardy. He can speak to the technical pieces to it, but that's essentially what it is.
Yes, you're correct. Basically, the life cycle for the Chromebooks is 6.5 years. So these Chromebooks, they're at the end of the life cycle. So after that, after June, basically these Chromebooks, they're going to be at high risk for our network infrastructure.
And
so I misspoke. That's why he came up to back me up. Thank you.
Dr. Cuevas, I think this goes back to, and again, I know we're looking into it and we've been looking into it, but would like an update in relation to if we can't use these Chromebooks, can we find a way to give them away?
Josue, let's not get into it. President Ewing has asked that for a number of times. I know you've worked with legal on this, but let's revisit it again after the pandemic and what's ESSER monies, okay? So can you go find that answer and come back?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that's what I really want is to push on that issue, is because for the federal government to give us money for Chromebooks, for us then not to be able to use those Chromebooks, but for us not to be able to give those Chromebooks away, I think requires some advocacy. So again, just because that's the rules of the law, what I'm asking is that we push against those rules and laws, because again, it doesn't make sense. Ms. Wozniak.
We replaced most of the Chromebooks last year. This is the last batch of it. This is the last 20, like 80% was replaced last year, and this is the last 20%. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Cuevas. And again, these are going to continue to come up as technology continues to change at such a rapid pace, and we want to make sure that our students have what they need to be successful. 5K, purchase of 1,400 Apple TVs and security mounts.
This is to assist the teachers. They currently, some of our teachers had desktops, so in order to assist them so that they can present and do this simultaneously, we cannot keep those desktops because they're at risk too because of their age. I don't know how old they are, but we had to move away from them. Again, Josue can follow up with anything, but this is it in layman's terms that this is to assist the teachers in presenting and working in small groups so that they can be able to use to move about the room while they're presenting. So, yes.
Do we have classrooms identified where they will be used?
Yes. Josue and his team, Dr. Cuevas and his team have mapped that out. Because there were a number of teachers. We worked with the union. There were some concerns that teachers wanted to keep these desktops. They didn't understand why, and part of it had to do, again, with the network security and the fact that we couldn't maintain that, and the fact that we couldn't maintain these computers anymore because they were becoming obsolete. So getting the Apple TVs allows the teachers the flexibility to present and move about the room.
What size are those? What size are the
TVs?
The TVs themselves.
So it's actually I'm going to let you explain this because I know what they are, but I can't explain it. So.
The size of the Apple TVs is like this phone. It's an actual device that is going to allow the teachers through the wireless to connect their laptops through the projector so that they can move around in the classroom with their laptop, and then they can project.
So the projector is on the board?
It's on the center of the classroom.
So it's taking the place of a smart board?
Basically, the Apple TV, the function of the Apple TV is to allow the laptop through the Wi-Fi infrastructure to transmit whatever the teacher have on their laptop.
I'm saying it's taking the place of a smart board, because that's what the smart boards used to do when they had them in the classrooms. For the teacher to present from the smart board.
In this case, it's through the wireless.
Okay.
Yeah, you're getting technical, but I think what Mr. McBride is saying is he's accurate, right?
Yes.
He's just looking for the philosophy, the idea behind it.
So instead of being near the smart board and pushing, you can go about the room and do just the same. Yeah.
This was.
It's just an upgrade in technology.
Does this have any use for remote learning if we go back to remote learning or anything?
So that was something I was going to end with. I don't know if you remember, but Dr. Cuevas and I did discuss a plan for having kind of like a 21st century classroom where we would utilize, this was one component that we would utilize, in addition to having the teacher have a mic and a wireless headset so that they can, and a camera in the classroom so that students could see in the classroom what was happening as well as see what was happening on the computer screen. So we could utilize this as part of that, and we have a couple of pilots that we're looking at with also with headsets, so we can do virtual field trips to places across the globe.
So I've always advocated for in-school suspension, being able to monitor their classroom. Would that help them monitor their classroom or no?
We have a different tool for that the teachers already have in place. It's called Hapara, so that the teachers can monitor what the students are doing at their Chromebook from anywhere.
Okay, but the student's not learning from the teacher directly. They're just being monitored. They're not.
So that's something that we haven't really discussed, but it's definitely something that we can put into our conversation.
Well, instead of the students sitting there doing whatever during in-school suspension, I've always said, why can't they monitor their classroom and keep up with the classroom even though they're not disturbing the classroom?
I think that what we've described has endless possibilities in terms of students at home and other things, but we're still discussing those ideas.
Ms. Vukovic.
What's happening with all the smart boards?
The smart boards, we've updated a number of the projectors on. Do you want to go ahead?
So the smart board, we're replacing them with the smart projectors so that you can have up to 15 students going to the whiteboard, and through the projector, they can basically do the same functionality with basically half of the cost of the smart board.
What's happening to all this? Mine was just put in my classroom.
So are you referring to the Apple TV in terms of why, in relation to that? So just to be very, the Apple TV just mirrors the screen. That's it. So instead of connecting to having to connect it with a wire, this gives the teacher the flexibility to walk around, and that's really it. And so we had some that had the desktop very close to the smartboard and connected, and we have to eliminate that. So it's not going to eliminate the smartboard. It's really about just mirroring the screen and providing access. So what Josue described, the teacher can literally walk around the classroom without having to do that. We wouldn't have to do this if those desktops were not coming to the end of their life. But because they come to the end of their life, it brings in all these other issues in terms of network security, in terms of warranties, in terms of costs to maintain those. So the best solution was to move to the Apple TV, and that was also something that that's where I segued into the conversation about the 21st century classroom with these other pieces. We talked about that as a possibility, but this will help us. But now we found that this component really solves that issue with the desktops.
So the smart boards are just going to become screens then?
No. It's just an additional tool. That, again, it's just mirroring it, right? So instead of connecting it with a hard wire from the computer, from the desktop to the smart board, the Apple TV helps. In addition, this is one thing that Apple TV can do. There are other features of it, but this is something that they can use. It's wireless.
So I guess the question is, are we removing the current smart boards from the classrooms?
And is the Apple TV, is this a system or that's an Apple?
It's literally this big. So when Josue, so it's like, and that's why I was trying to, like, it's a little box that helps to read from the computer to, and then it helps to mirror what's on your screen.
Kind of like a hotspot?
No, a hotspot is internet. It provides internet access, and Apple TV helps to really mirror that's one thing.
So I think so. Two things. What it reminds me of a little bit is I don't know what they were called. I remember them in class. The projectors that teachers could write on and then project onto the screen with like a mirror. That, but like 10 times better, because you don't have the big like giant thing and you don't have to stay in one place. You could do it while you're walking. So it's like an updated version of that. So my second thing is I worry about, so this to me, yes, okay, I love it, enjoy it, we need more of it, but there are different people who, within even our district that have different familiarities with the tools that we already have. So is there going to be training? Is there going to be constant? Okay. Because I worry that when we introduce these things, we need to know how they work in tandem with the tools that we already have, so that everyone's kind of in a level playing field when they're actually impacting the students.
For sure.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So training.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? And I guess my only question is, I would expect that we would be looking to purchase more, or 1,400 will cover the entire district. Okay, that will. Yep, thank you. With some to spare. Yes. All right, next up is School Climate Conference.
This is a conference that Principal Campos and one of his team members will be attending. We know that they've been doing a lot of really great work around building school culture and focusing on the school climate. And so this is, again, to help to build the capacity and continue that learning.
Again, back to Oakdale. Why are we just allowing this for certain people? If we're doing it,
Do you mind
So
if
I think let him respond, so go ahead.
So I think it's a really great question. So, and I think the folks should bring it back. What we have here is that there are different schools that have different focus. Like part of their school improvement plans, they have different focus. Doesn't mean that everybody shouldn't be doing it, but we can only focus on one thing at a time. And so some of these schools are at different places with some of the work. And this is one of the pieces of work that Principal Campos has been focused on year after year. Since I've been in the district, this is one of the things that he's really focused on. He's really made a lot of headway on his teams, and he wants to continue that learning. It doesn't mean that other middle school principals or elementary school principals can't do the same, but they're at different places and they're focusing on different work. We do have streams of work in our Destination 2022, our strategic plan, that the district as a whole is focusing on, but this is very focused that these schools and these school leaders have focused on.
Ms. Briscoe.
It was a great job to understand the agenda. Could we get the agenda for this one? Because if it's climate conference, it'd be good to understand what.
Sure. Principal Campos, do you want to come up and just give an overview, and then?
No, so middle
Juarez
school.
Middle School.
Juarez Middle School, yep.
Good evening, everyone. Board President, Superintendent Placencia, members of the board, members of the public, colleagues. I'm Nelson Campos, principal at Miguel Juarez Middle School. Just like Dr. Cesario was mentioning a little while ago, I have been focusing with members of my team at Miguel Juarez for the past probably 4 or 5 years on restorative practices and just basically building a culture of cultivating partnerships with parents, with the community, with our students, and providing equitable discipline to our students. So for the most part, we have provided this presentation to the board on multiple occasions. The last time that we presented this was at the PTAC a couple months ago, just because the PTAC wanted to see how the model that we follow at Miguel Juarez. Again, it is just intended for us to continue building on what we have already laid as a foundation. And then the other piece to this is that part of attending this conference is not only because we are going to learn some new strategies, but this is for this school climate conference, I submitted a proposal to present. So we will be presenting as well on the wonderful work that we have done. And there's tons of data that we have provided for us to present.
Ms. Leguizamo.
I just wanted to ask quickly in regards to the presentation that's going to be at the conference there. Will that also be presented to our school staff as well eventually when you return?
It can also be presented, like I said a little while ago, we have presented this to the PTAC. It has been recorded. I think all the board members have a copy of the presentation we did a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, Ms. Gonzalez, that you weren't present at that time, but it's recorded and it can be posted for everyone to see. So it's available anytime, and we can present anytime to any of the schools. I know many of our schools around the district as well have partnered with us, have consulted with us, and we have also provided some sort of guidance, to many schools on the process and systems that we have in place.
Okay, so it is something that we've already presented to our own staff, and now we're going to present it out to different communities. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I also want to state that our schools, we don't have a one-size-fits-all model. We believe that the principal is a lever of change. So what Flora's doing at her school will be very different than what Dan's doing. What Nelson's doing is very different from Yvonne. And we want to give them that latitude and differentiation in their schools because they service different communities. So Nelson, as we know, has been working around on social-emotional, setting the tone as a school. I mean, everyone's taking a different approach. They also have school improvement plans in which they list on what they're working, what's their buckets of work. And so this PD aligns with that, or else the area superintendents would not be approving it. So I do want to state, because Catalina goes to a professional development, it may not fit all of our 15 schools, right? So that differentiation is there, and the autonomy of the principal as the CEO of their building to say this is what we're working on based off the data.
Thank you. All right, next item is 5M, which is Nelson Campos Aspiring Superintendent's Academy.
So I'm going to ask Area Superintendent Clarence Berry to come up and speak really quickly. But I do think that just to highlight how this relates to the work that we're doing, part of our focus is developing all stakeholders within our district. So we have an Aspiring Assistant Principals Academy that we do in-house, aspiring principals, and part of our job, what we're tasked with, is making sure that we're building the capacity of all members of our organization so that we can continue to bring people into our organization and hopefully that they can thrive and move into different positions. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Mr. Berry.
Good evening, Superintendent and the board. This is a great honor. Nelson is one of our aspiring principals. I have the opportunity to work side by side as a principal colleague with him for the last 5 or 6 years. He's done some great work in the school culture climate, and so he's going to be displaying what Waukegan is doing at this conference. But he was selected among thousands to join the Aspiring Superintendents Academy for Latinos. And so this is a great honor and recognition, and it displays the hard work that our leaders are doing in this district. And I highly recommend that we support him in this professional development.
Congratulations, Nelson. That's a big honor.
Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
Quick question for probably Dr. Cesario here. Have you determined if ESSER money is going to be used for this, or have you determined the fund yet that's going to be used for this?
I believe that we are using, it's out of our area superintendent's budget, as is the other programs that I had mentioned. That is all, it's part of our plan to build the capacity. This is something that we've been doing since I started here, is ensuring that we are looking at making sure that we have a bench of folks to step into critical positions. And we've seen that come where we've had a lot of our assistant principals move into principal roles. We've had a lot of teachers and teacher leaders move into assistant principal roles. So this is certainly another level that we're talking about, but we also want to make sure that we're thinking about the future while building the capacity of some of our great leaders in district.
Right, and thank you for that clarification, because we just recently learned at a conference that we a luncheon that we attended, that we could use ESSER monies for grow your own type of programs, right? So the ESSER money is one-time money for long-term investments. And I think maybe we should also maybe take a look at that, so you can use your area superintendent funds for other areas too. So just putting that out there, because I know it was kind of recently said.
Yeah, and we have some other ideas too, but that's forthcoming.
Yep.
So
thank you for that.
Yep.
All my questions
Thank you.
for President.
Thank you.
This is to try to encourage more people to come to the district, right?
So I think it's a really good question. I think it can be considered part of a retention strategy, and also a way to show other folks that, here, we're investing in our people. So I think that's a good way to put that.
So I'm glad you said that, because now I want to ask if we are in fact invested in our people, why are we hiring so many outside of the district and not within the district? Because the logic to that for me is this: if you hire somebody out the district, it's going to take them 2 years to learn the area. So that's 2 years that they're not doing the work. When if we hire somebody in the district, they already know the area, they can take off and run. Because as we've been seeing through the hiring practices, most of our staff don't live in our community, which is one, the money we're paying them is not going back in our community. 2, they don't know our community. And it's starting to be a pattern. Most of you guys come from somewhere else. So I'm trying to figure out exactly like, what are we doing here? Don't look at her, sir, I'm asking you.
Well, you're sure. Yeah, your question, is it related to this topic, or are you asking in general? So I think what we try to do is we try to hire as many folks from inside as possible. Again, going back to what I just talked about, building the capacity of the folks that we have, from teacher leaders to assistant principals and principals. What we've done is tried to really focus on hiring from the inside.
I mean, that's very admirable, right? I love the idea. But when you have staff that's complaining about how the administration teach them, how exactly are we helping them? Because it seems to me they come to these board meetings almost every week and they're asking for the administration support and they're not getting it.
That's something that we're working at every day. So just like I asked you to give us your, to let us know who the folks are that are not responding to your emails, we take every input and feedback that you provide us, and we try to work at it. But just like I mentioned to Mr. Vukovic earlier, just because we do a professional development one day doesn't mean that tomorrow things are going to change. So it's part of a long-term strategy. We're looking for some quick wins. We're looking to get better at everything we do so that we can serve the students, the community, the parents, to the best of our abilities, and work towards the goals that we've all set together.
And I appreciate you saying that, Mr. Vukovic, that nothing changes overnight. But if things are the same for like 3-4 years, what does that say? That means you guys haven't actually listened to anything, because I've been living here for 44 years. I've lived here. I've been in this district, and this is the worst as I've ever seen it. And it's steady getting worse. So exactly, and this is why I'm here, we're doing all of these conferences and we're doing all of these great things, but what is changing in our district?
So, and I think for that, Mr. Edwards, you have to, one, look at the data. So when we do our data,
Data that you guys put together. I need somebody else to do the data, because this is
the state tracks it. So everything that we have is reported to the state, and that is what I use in order to gauge which direction the district is headed. I think there also are a lot of great things, but negativity, unfortunately, is what sells. So when you go on, when you hear and you walk in and you see Catalina Quiñones Nelson's school, when you go even to Miguel Juarez, when you talk to our students, there are definitely challenges that we have. But what I want to say is it's not all bad. I will say that. I was speaking to the camera. I'm raising kids in this district. I'm in these buildings. I'm talking to our teachers. We have struggles. But what I'm learning is everybody's having struggles. You go to Gurnee, you go to Zion, you go to Lake Forest, they are having struggles. So I appreciate when you say that nothing is being done, but these meetings, these conversations, these conferences, all of those are things that are done in order to help. And the number one lever of change is our principals. So organizations like this, investing in Mr. Campos, investing in Catalina Quiñones Nelson, making sure that the principals are supported so that they can support those teachers, are a strategy in order to get things under control. So when we say things are out of control and it's the worst it's ever been, again, I do think that that's perception. Is I've seen from both sides of it.
Is everything correct?
It's not everything. It's
But I'm listening to you say that you go into the buildings and you talk to them. I appreciate that. But talking is mute if you're not listening to them. And what it seems to me is nobody, administration or board, is listening to our teachers.
I would tell you to talk to teachers who contact me and talk with me, and they may have a different perspective. So I think it's 1,200 teachers in District 60.
I talked about 120 of them today. And the 120 that I talked to today, they're disgusting. So I'm trying to understand, and these are teachers from all different buildings. So again, what are we doing? Are we listening to them? Because I'm looking at this agenda, and this is really starting to do something to me, because we put all this on here. We don't explain none of it. We're steady spending and spending and spending since COVID money, because we just find a reason to spend. And I've noticed that most of the things we're spending on are people from outside of Chicago. Why?
Yeah, I would say to actually pull our budget. It's a public document. You can go through it and see where the money is actually going.
And the budget is, or these items, there are detailed, there's a detailed description attached to each one of these on board docs that goes into detail. It's not just listed like this.
Ms. Vukovic.
As long as Mr. Edwards brought this up, I know it's kind of off topic from what we're talking about, but it did open up a conversation that really needs to be had. When I hear, well, things can't happen right away, and I agree to some extent, but I know that where the money should be spent, if we're going to bring these kids back up to where they should be, we need feet on the ground. We do not need the administrators or whoever to be going to conferences, and then they're going to bring it to the principal, and we're going to have a committee to decide if they do that. And pretty soon it's a month before that committee gets formed, and then they have to have 5 or 6 meetings and whatever. Just an example, and I know I harp on reading specialists because it's near and dear to my heart, because I know what it can do. And for a quick turnaround and quick results, when I would teach, start with kindergarten at the school where I taught for 8 years, 10 years, And we would start in the fall, and there would be in the kindergarten morning, because at that point we had part of the time we had two kindergarten, morning and afternoon. And there would be half the class did not know their letters and sounds because they came in, nobody read to them for the first 5 years, they didn't know their letters and sounds, and then I would come in and I started out with 2 or 3 groups of kindergarten that I would see in that one kindergarten. And there would be 6 kids in the group, and by Christmas, that number was cut in half. All they needed was exposure to the letters.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't think.
But it seems like all the money we're spending, when all it would take is extra people in the classroom working with the children.
Miss Vukovic, we've had several conversations about trying to find people, and it's been no, and that's the truth. It's been difficult to find people too, and so it's not something that we didn't exhaust. And the other piece too is that we have students who are in 2nd grade who are not in school for 2 years. So the period of time that you're talking about it's going to take a little bit longer, but we are in earnest trying to and spending time. And I'm glad that that Board President Ewing brought that up. That there is a lot of work that goes into this, and that we've looked into different resources. We've reached out to different retired folks to see if they could come, and we have done that, and we continue to do that. So your input and your feedback is valued. I've told you that personally, off the record. I'm saying it now. It doesn't fall on deaf ears. All I'm saying is, I'm not falling back on an excuse that it's going to take 5 years to do something, but it isn't as easy as saying, you laid it all out. A lot of those things are dependent on whether or not you can find those resources. We're looking, we continue to look, we continue to consult with the research, and we try to reach out to different folks. And to your point, I wish we could find all the people from Waukegan, and that's why we've had to go, sir, I just want to finish my statement and then I'll stop talking. But we've had to go out, we did look at an exhaustive list for social workers, for other folks. We wanted to provide as many resources as possible, so we did what we had to do. And that's it. And I think for myself, I'm okay, but I think for the other team members here that don't reside in the area, they've decided to work here and come and try to work to improve things. So I think that's important to know. And we do take your input seriously, and we do take it into consideration. So
Dr. Cesario, and I just want to add on this. So I'm going to go to Ms. Vukovic, and then I'm going to go to Raynon, if you don't mind me. But recently, the Board of Education attended a Lake County Board dinner. And there was a presentation on what actually moves the academic needle, right, in the percentage. So I'm going to read it to you. So number 1 was summer learning and enrichment, summer school. We offered that last year. We're offering it this year. That was number 1. Hiring specialized instructional support. We've done that. Last year, this year, they said instructional coaching is the number 1 lever. The board was there. We were way above that even before we went into the pandemic. Number 3 is technology devices and improving broadband connectivity. We all know how much money we spend on technology, broadband, etc. You've seen what was on the agenda today. Investing in professional development is number 4. Implementing social emotional learning or training of staff. So we know that we've done that too. The last 3 are high intensity tutoring, which we did earlier in the year, and add learning time through stipends. We've done that. He's worked with the union to see how we could do that so that we could be doing our own in-school tutoring. And then the last one is facility projects. So from the survey that they did throughout the state, Waukegan Public Schools had started to implement a lot of that prior to the pandemic. Through the pandemic, added those supports. So just wanted to give you that because that was a state survey that the board just recently seen. Raynon, I'm going to go to the hiring. We do not have a residency clause. So employees can apply from all over. And so what I'm going to say is that we have a number of positions available. And if you have the resources of people, I'm looking for paras, I'm looking for security, I'm looking for teachers, I'm looking for administrators. So if you go on that website and just please pass that out, put that out there. We've talked about pre-K positions before, slots. for the community. So please visit our websites. We're looking for people. So I mean, if you have leads, get them to us, have them applied, go on the website, and we'll look at them.
Just put that out there since we addressed it about 7 people. Brought a guy here from North Chicago over there, and he applied to be the principal at Brookside. That HR office made him wait over 90 days, so we lost a good person because we didn't get back with him. And so let's talk like we adults, and we really do understand, because I hate when people speak to me and talk to me like I'm not really getting it, but we not getting nobody up in here, and staff are scared to speak out about what they're going through because we're seeing it. They're coming up here to the meetings and they're complaining about it. Retaliation. Nobody wants to work in the district. We're not paying nobody. Nobody wants to come to this district. And then when you go and look at our high schools, just go look at them. 5 minutes is all it takes. Who wants to work there? Who? We still got security guards making under or $15, $16 an hour, first line of defense for our kids. Who wants to work there? And we got other places out here paying more. Like, come on, y'all, let's be honest. And then we're talking about hiring and a process. Are we serious here? Because Teresa, most of the people that's in offices or these director spots are people that was handpicked and put there. Were they qualified when they got there? Absolutely not. And please don't pester me and tell me that they were, because we know that they wasn't. And that's what I'm saying to this board. Things that happen behind closed doors always shine light in the public. When you guys think we don't know, we do know, because somebody is always talking.
And this is the only thing I'll say, Ray, is because this is one of those, is I know your passion and your heartbeat for the community, because while we may not display it the same, it is the same. And it's for our Waukegan students. And so when we talk about people not being qualified, and we do that in a public setting, that individuals who've been here going through a lot of school and a lot of years of work in order to get where they are, and I don't want them to misunderstand or not even clarify. As I know when we say they're handpicked and we throw out these things and we throw out these statements, that's not always true. You have to provide. You don't have to, but
we can. I got time today.
Yeah, and that's
I
what.
got that.
So we may have opinions, but this is not the appropriate venue for that. We do ask questions. You've been able to ask questions. You've gotten your statement off. You've come to the board, and you've been able to speak from there. Me and you have had conversations. Anytime you call my phone, I answer and I respond. I'm transparent with you, the same I am with anybody else in this community that reaches out to me. So I will say is that we have a lot of work to do. I will say we've done a lot of work. And I will say that we are still moving forward. And I want to keep the focus on children.
And I appreciate you, Board President, and I will say this is what you've been saying. And I will say I'm tired of hearing the same thing, because I've been hearing this for 3-4 years. And again, as I said to you and the board, nothing is changing. It's getting worse. And I'll be glad when you guys come walk through my neighborhood or the piece of community that I live in, because I'm trying to understand what part of Waukegan do y'all stay in.
I'm
just asking though.
I lived for a decade until last year on 644 Lennox. I lived for a decade on 644 Lennox.
Policies and procedures, we're not following those. We picking and choosing when we do that, because we had a Black History program at Jefferson and John Lewis Middle School. We all know that politics is not supposed to be in our school. So who on this board gave them permission to allow them to do petitions inside of our school? Just like LeBaron came up here a few weeks ago and he asked the board for approval of something that he already paid for. It was already paid for, whether it's an emergency or not. You guys have authorization to call an emergency meeting. Should no check be signed for X amount of dollars without who we elected? We elected you guys. This is who we voted on. And for them to spend a check to district without the board approval, bro, like nothing is happening. So again, we're picking and choosing who we.
So when lights go out or water mains break, you want us to, and that's why I don't want to do this, Ray, because I respect you too much. I just don't think this is the right to go. I don't think this is the right way to do it. It's not the correct forum.
We got to have it. I just have to put you guys on notice. We're going to fight. The community is tired. We are sick and tired of watching what is going on before us. And then you guys get up here.
I'm sick and tired that all of this is getting in place of what we all are supposed to be doing. Is I spend 90% of my time on this board dealing with adult issues instead of actually things that benefit kids. And it's frustrating.
Politics over our kids.
It shouldn't be politics over our kids. Shouldn't be. I'm not playing politics. I swear to God, I don't receive a dime. I ran because I care about this community. I ran because I have kids in this community. If the voters don't want me here, I swear, take me out. I will. Mr. Vukovic said if I don't have the time, I will resign. I'm frustrated. And I feel you all's frustration. And that's what you all are getting right now. And I'm sorry, Mr. McIntyre, but it is the most frustrating thing is that we're fighting with each other instead of doing what's best for our kids. What I want to say is thank you to Ms. Vukovic for the recommendations that you made. It's because, again, we're not looking at them. We have a budget meeting that's coming up on the first Saturday in May. One of the things that they said is we can't just go out and spend all the ESSER money until we actually know where the students are so that we can provide targeted supports. And so the fact that we didn't talk about it in November or we're not talking about it, I get why that may be frustrating, but it doesn't mean that those things aren't being looked into, and it doesn't mean that they're not going to be recommended. We have a budget meeting and those things are forthcoming. We're in the middle of Destination 2027, which will talk about where we're going for the future of our district. Those conversations are happening. I got off work so I could go and meet with Deputy Cesario so we can do a timeline as far as how the board is going to be a part of those conversations. These are things that are happening throughout the day, all the time, when people are working. And so I understand the community's frustration, but selfishly, I am here because I also care about my kids' education. And I don't use that as an excuse, but my kids are in this district. That's why I originally ran for the Waukegan board, is because I see that we are not perfect. But I also see that we spend more time pointing fingers and arguing with each other instead of actually sitting down, talking to each other, and solving problems. So I apologize for my frustration, but I do have to say is that you want to make sure that you are recruiting talent. So thank you for building the internal capacity, but you also can't get locked into groupthink. And so we have to be doing both. We have to be hiring internally and promoting people so that they see a future in Waukegan Public Schools, but we also have to be attracting and bringing in talent from throughout the United States. It's because that's the only way that we grow. I want people to choose Waukegan. It is. I want people to choose Waukegan, and I think there are people who can go a lot of different places. They're not here because they have to. They're here because they care about the work and they care about our students. And so thank you to all of those individuals who have chosen Waukegan, and thank you to all of those, like, Mr. Campos has been here in district for years. Mr. Hill has been in district for years. Principal Carr has been in the district for years. And they're doing the work and they're moving up, and we're investing in them to build their capacity because they are the future leaders of our district. And if we keep doing stuff like we're doing tonight, if the board keeps doing stuff like it's doing and sowing dissension in the community, those people are not going to be here. They're going to leave. That is the reality. There's a superintendent shortage. There's a principal shortage. There's a teacher shortage. All of those things are true. People don't have to choose or to work anywhere. They can go where they want to. And so I want to make sure that they see Waukegan as a viable place to live. So I apologize for my frustration, but I had to get that off my chest. After this, yeah. Mr. McIntyre.
Kind of rough right now, huh?
This is you have to get to the mic.
Anthony, why don't you go up to the mic, man? We can hear you. If you don't mind, go up to the mic, we can hear you. Thank you.
I was saying this is an interesting night, listening to all of this. Board President Ewing mentioned that the principals are on the front line of everything that's going on here in the district, and I'm not so much disagreeing with that at all. I think it's a very valid point. That said, I'm going to go back to my point of the principal at Brookside campus. As far as I'm concerned, Brookside is the flagship of the district. I don't know who would argue with that. And to me, if the messaging that comes out of that campus isn't proper, I think it influences the entire district. And we do have great principals in this district. I've talked to a number of them. I'm not from Waukegan. I can honestly say I'm proud of the bulk of them. But typically, it only takes that one to stick out, and it's so easy to ignore the rest. So I'm going to focus again on this principal at Brookside campus. I'm going to say again that he needs to be fired. He needs to be fired like yesterday. He needs to go. And I'm saying that because of the history of him over in that campus. And I wonder if you guys have a way in which to measure morale. On that list that I saw or heard the superintendent reading off of, I don't hear anything that says something about morale. These staff members do not want to be here. They don't have a choice, right? Because they're earning a living, right? They're taking care of their families. But I don't know how well anyone does their job when they are not comfortable with the leadership in the location, if they don't respect the leadership, if they see double talk, if they see favoritism from the leadership, if individuals seem to pick and choose when and where they want to stand on certain aspects of what's going on with the students. I have this saying, it's on my wall over in my office. It takes all kind of ingredients to make gumbo taste like it does. It's a true statement, right? You're not going to pick out one thing. So we can name all of these different points that are very favorable to the district, and they look very well. But it's a few other ingredients that we can't ignore. And my hope is, I'm going to keep saying this, my hope is that sooner or later, this is going to ring true and everybody's going to, take it seriously. I guess I'm curious, I have a question. Are disciplinary records for administrative individuals foilable, if I can make up a word? Can I foil? Do we have the ability to find out what disciplinary actions have been taken for principals? Well, actually, culture climate specialists all the way up.
So with that, Mr. McIntyre, you can request a FOIA for anything, and if it is allowed to be released, it would be released under the FOIA. If it's not allowed to be released, it would be denied with an explanation as to why.
Well, I pose the question so that I don't waste my time. So if there's a way in which to get the answer to the question, I would just rather go after the information that I readily have the right to receive, so I don't waste you all's time. So that's why I pose the question. The reason that I want the answer to that question is because if that information is readily available, if we have access to it, if in receiving that information we can show, because I'm telling you, to date, I have 14 instances where parents have complained about that principal over at Brookside, and nobody has been able to see not 1 ounce of discipline. I don't know where the investigation is. The investigation is what I'm looking for, because we have investigations that we pick and choose that we use. I'm saying, where is the investigation for parents who are complaining about a principal mistreating their students? So I'm not going to ring up a lot of time. I just wanted to say that, but I think these are things that people want to know, and we have to grab all of it, not just a snapshot of pieces that look good for certain situations. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so with that, I know we did get a little bit off topic, but because we don't have a public comment section and this allows for the community to ask questions, that is why that format was done in that way, so everybody was heard. I don't need Attorney General seeing my name again for a open meetings violation, right? So I make sure to hear from all to avoid those complaints and make sure that everyone is heard. With that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McBride, second by Ms. Wozniak. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. We are now adjourned. If we can meet back in 10 minutes so we can get going with the rest of our meeting.
she okay?
evening, everyone. If we can come back and get started.
Yeah, sure. I never saw that. Kind of psychedelic. I feel like I'm on drugs.
The first one that followed off.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, there's the birthday boy.
All right. If we could get the operations agenda up on the screen, please. And maybe it is, and I'm on the wrong thing. Okay, I'd like to call it is now 7:30. I'd like to call to order the March 15, 2022 Operational Service Committee agenda meeting. If I can have a roll call, please.
Miss Hannah, Mr. McBride,
Present.
Mr. Ewing,
Here.
Mr. Riddle,
Present.
Miss Callahan Wozniak,
Here.
Miss Leguizamo,
Present.
Miss Gonzalez.
Present.
All right, we do have a quorum. So what I'm going to ask now is for item 3A, approval of the previous meeting minutes from February 1st, 2022 OSC meeting.
Mr. Riddle, I make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Wozniak. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. We now have our information items starting with 5A. And I do want to, for those who are attending or maybe online, is we are not trying to hide anything. This is done in a matter of efficiency. A lot of times we're asking questions which are available in the presentations. And so what we've been doing is making sure that the information items are loaded, that they have the attachments necessary, and that they can go through. So then if the board has questions, they can submit those. And that is done to help us get through the work. That doesn't mean that we won't stop, we won't slow down, and we'll take as much time as needed. But there are a lot of things that were normal and routine in nature that didn't seem like they needed a presentation. So we allow the attachment to make sure that the information is there, the public is aware, we are aware. The board has more than ample time to look into it because they have not only this meeting, but another meeting in order to approve it that's upcoming. So again, these items are available online, and you can go, anyone, and look at the agenda when they're posted, which have to be at a minimum 2 days before the meeting. And typically we try and do the Friday before to give ample time for review. So we're not ignoring or rushing through. We are simply trying to make our meetings more efficient. Item 5A is the Waukegan High School outdoor classroom proposal at Washington campus.
Thank you, Board President Ewing. Good evening, Superintendent, board members, staff, and community. So the first information item is an outdoor classroom at Waukegan High School, Washington campus. There is an attachment here for your review. This is being proposed by the high school administration in the field, the soccer field by the new parking lot at Washington campus, and this is in their site-based budget request for the upcoming year. We do have Mr. Dan Hill here, Washington campus principal, as well as Kate Kriske with the science department at the high school if there are any questions.
I don't quite understand the outside classroom related to the school. What does that actually mean? What is that? Are we talking about reconstructing a classroom out there? Or?
Yeah. So if you all want to come up and speak, Mr. White, I'd ask if you could put the attachment up on the screen for everybody to follow along. Thank you.
That's cool.
Good evening. I'm here with Kate Kriske, one of our science teachers. She approached me about this project last year during the pandemic as we were looking at exploring. As we know, Washington campus, we're tight for space. And so she went and did a lot of research with some of the other departments, partnerships with some of the outside agencies to kind of get a mock-up of what that would look like and some of the functionalities behind that space. And so what you have in the presentation, everything from the mission and vision and the educational aspects. If you can advance the slides to Mr. McBride's question, that's the location there. And then there's one more. That's sort of a mock-up of what it would look like, and I'll let her speak to kind of some of the functionalities behind it.
Yeah, so I know it sounds confusing of an outdoor classroom, but it really is just a functional lab space, open space, and field space for the students. So this is just a mock-up of the potential. We could ratchet things up or down depending on the needs of our students, our teachers, and our building. But in that mock-up, there would be a lecture space. There would actually be a lab space. I teach AP Environmental Science, and dual credit geology. So it would really lend to that field experience for my students. There would be a whole water function and feature in it as well, as long as a geology. Throughout the whole perimeter, or along the whole perimeter, I should say, there would be space to display projects and student work that could range all the way from science to art.
Outdoors?
Outdoors,
Okay.
yes, all outdoors. Again, to extend the field-based studies and just application of indoor classroom learning, and then actually going outside and applying those concepts.
So I know at one point they was using that. I know they had little kids over there for practice doing football and stuff. So that's going to kind of take some of that away.
No.
I can't imagine.
No, it's if you go back to the previous slide, so tucked away in that corner back there, there's the field that still is able to be utilized. But back there in that corner, there's some like a void. And so we've walked that with operations and just to look, because we didn't know if there was sewage running through there or anything else. So they walked through, surveyed the area, and said that's actually a great space for this, and it wouldn't interfere with any of the PE classes that go outside, as well as the different athletic events that are happening there. So.
And just on another note, whenever you guys have your drills, I noticed you line up down Washington Street. Just to suggest to use that space and have them on the inside instead of being on the street.
Yeah, we've worked that out. There was an issue with access at one point because that gate was secured during the day. But we've got a system now in place so that we can actually get in there.
Those drills, I've seen kids using that, taking that advantage, and they take off and head down the street. But if they were enclosed, they couldn't get away like that.
So if you'd like to build us a new school location.
I'm done.
I have a comment, and Mr. Riddle.
Go ahead, Mr. Riddle, then I'll go Ms. Gonzalez.
I just want to sincerely thank everyone, including yourselves, that had anything to do with this, because I think outdoor education and community awareness of our environment is so critical to our children these days. And we've seen much more awareness and use of our parks and national parks and field, all of our outdoor experiences. And I just think this is wonderful. So I fully support it, and thank you so much for bringing this forward. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to echo those same sentiments. A lot of people who don't know me, or fortunately know me, out in California, and one of the cool things about the institution I attended was that they were really heavy on outdoor education. We were having classrooms outside. Same issues. Sometimes it was a space issue. Sometimes it was to make the class materials that we were reviewing and learning a little more interesting and dynamic. And I think that's what we need, especially for students who want to be interested in STEM education at the high school. I want more of our students to get into those fields, but you got to make it more interesting. Some of that material is hard to digest, and the more experience that they get outside, hands-on experiments, I think it's going to be a really, really cool thing. When this happens, I would love to, make it a community event, bring awareness around it, because I think this is a really innovative way of creating space, but I also want the community to be aware about it so we take care of it as well.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
Ms. Wozniak.
I have several questions. Have we looked into getting any grants to do this project?
No, so this is actually in its earlier phases, and so a lot of the work that's here on the budget in terms of even going out to get an estimate of cost, the upkeep and everything else, I got to give all credit to Ms. Krischke, one of our science teachers here, because she's actually, when she brought it forth with some solutions of what it would cost. And so, in terms of the funding source, that would be somebody else's expertise in terms of being able to doing that. But I'm just bringing it forth as an idea, and for us to, hopefully be able to fund it so we can actually expand our offerings here at Washington campus.
Well, I think it's an excellent idea, and I like that you're working with Lake Forest Open Lands and the I can't remember the title of the group that the students.
The Center of Conservation Leadership.
Center of Conservation Leadership. Yes, that's an excellent program, and teaches the children a lot.
More work for Mr. Kuchenberg over there. Greenery.
Actually, sir, if I might,
she took the time, they took the time to invite operations to discuss it, to make sure that their plans didn't negatively impact our snow plowing or the sports fields.
You're right.
Oh man, above and beyond.
Yes. Wow.
It was very refreshing to have approach it from all sides.
Good.
Wonderful.
That's awesome.
Kudos.
I'll say your hand on this one, Mr. Vukovic.
I think it's a wonderful idea, and being a graduate of that school, you know, 2 campuses, that was the one that was always landlocked, and you really never went outside. At least at Brookside, there were some interior courtyards and that kind of thing. If that particular location doesn't work, I hope the district would try to find another location. You know, just one thing I heard somebody say about they look for drains or whatever. When I went to school there, that had just recently been filled in. There's a ravine that runs there, actually runs underneath the dog pound and then comes through there. So, you know, there were buildings along Waukegan Street, so there's probably foundations in there. So hopefully you don't have to dig too far.
Thank you. Ms. Leguizamo.
Thank you for bringing forth this idea. I remember a few years ago where our student body did a protest at Washington campus and was hoping to have some environmental reform. So I'm hoping that those students are seeing some of what's happening here, because that's probably the start of where some of this came from, maybe. But that's my assumption. So I usually connect years of stuff, but I do just want to ask: have we projected out what the annual maintenance cost might be for this classroom? I just want to make sure that it is going to be incorporated in the future plans for our SIP and our budgeting for the schools. So has the team decided or looked into that yet?
Yeah, that was one of the early questions that Kevin had brought up, you know, to make sure that if we do it, it's something that could be sustainable. And by incorporating this as part of like the coursework and everything else with our environmental classes, the upkeep would be part of something that we're doing regularly. So yes, because that was, before we got the green light through operations, that was one of their biggest concerns, is like, don't build it. And then we walk by and there's weeds and stuff everywhere. And so we plan to fully utilize the space to make it part of our instruction. There's also some interdisciplinary connections there. So it's not just the science and environmental classes, but there's also some things that maybe in our literature classes they're reading about, where this outdoor space could provide sort of an experience that goes along with that reading. So yes, we thought that through, and that'll be part of the plan.
Okay, and I know you probably don't have that yet, but it'll be forthcoming. So I just also like to clarify in regards, in the project you show that there's a project display. Is that going to be like an encased or enclosed feature to protect the displays or the projects from the elements?
Yes, everything that we've talked to so far with the landscape architects has been plexiglass enclosed and can withstand all the weather that we'll experience here in the Midwest.
I'm excited about that, and I know this is just the start of it, but I'm just going to plant the seed right now, right? Because, you know, what I've seen out of the John Lewis Botany program is they're also planting their vegetables and fruits, and they have the students eat their freshly grown fruits. So I'm excited to see an expanded botany program come out of this feature as well. So I'm just going to plant the seed, just put it out there. Those are all my questions. Thank you, Board President.
One more question. I want to thank you, because when you get kids outside, it does a lot for their attitude and their minds when they get ready to go back inside the building. I'm saying that because when I used to work as security at Brookside, there was an outside area that kids at recess was able to go to. It was called, they didn't use the word, but it was really called Smokers Mall. But a lot of kids went out there to use it for smoking. Believe me, they did. That's what it was for. And also, we had a lot of kids go out, and some of the girls did double dutch and everything else, but at the end of the day, when they went back into the building, it was cool, calm, and collect. So it's a good idea.
Thank you. And I wanted to give kudos both to the high school over at Washington campus, along with the maintenance department, is because that is always one of the concerns as we move to SBB, is that there's coordination between the two departments. So thank you for being an example on how, again, if they're brought in early in the process, we can work collectively and collaboratively to make sure that the schools get done what they need to, but in coordination with all the other projects and things that we have going on. So again, we want to give our students exposure and access, right? I always say it's not an opportunity gap, it's an access gap. And so as we want students going into STEM and to be excited about school, this is a creative way in order to do that. So I commend both of you, and I will be happy to support and would love to see the project when it's complete. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 5B is approval to purchase a 66 passenger yellow school bus and 2 white activity buses.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ewing, and thank you for allowing them to expound on that opportunity for students. And as you just mentioned, item B, purchase of buses, 2 activity buses, and a yellow bus. If there are any questions, again, we have staff members here who can answer.
Ms. Wozniak.
Are we retiring any of the other buses that are out here? Or?
So with this purchase, we would have a spare yellow bus on hand when the other ones are down for maintenance. We currently have 3 and 3 drivers to support them, and eventually that will recycle another yellow bus. The activity buses, we have recycled some in the past. We're adding 2 more, so we went down to 5. We're adding 2 for a total of 7 to meet the demands of the, ROTC athletic programs, etc.
Mr. Vukovic.
I asked this a couple of years ago when you added another bus, but has there ever been a cost analysis done? Most districts, most governmental agencies will outsource things such as this here, because I tend to think you're not going to have that bus going every period of every school day. Matter of fact, you drive past here on most days, there's 2, sometimes 3 buses sitting out there. When you go to an outside contractor, if you need them for every day, you can contract that. If you need 5 buses today and none for the rest of the week, they can provide that. So I think you need to look at the use that we've had and determine the cost efficiency of that.
Yeah, thank you for the suggestion. We can certainly do that. I do want to say that 2 of the main focuses for these our district drivers is to supplement the shuttles between both high school campuses for our students and their access, as well as support after-school activities, field trips, etc. We have run into situations where a contractor cannot provide that support, especially during peak times of the year. So we have that available for them. But we'll certainly continue to do those analyses because we want to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible.
Yeah, I echo that concern that Mr. Moten brought up, because I do agree that we should do the cost analysis if it's possible. But I like having it in-house because, when I was a part of different activities, sometimes the bus didn't show up. And even now with some of our contractors, getting kids to school is hard. So I appreciate the effort to keep that, spare bus.
Well, I can see the bus being used. We got a JAMS program that we have after school. We also have the STARS program now that we just invested in for the next 5 years after school. And there's, like it was being said, like you said, there's various activities where a lot of times, like you say, the bus don't show up, and I've seen it a lot.
Don't show up.
You have our buses available to get these kids where they need to get to after school. Not only that, I think we use our buses sometimes for daycare, for kids to provide them back and forth to daycare. So there's a lot of reasons to use a bus. But what I'd like to see, our Bulldogs, and I've heard it was brought to my attention a couple of years ago. We were looking at possibly getting a bus, but we didn't do it. Our Bulldogs, when they travel, to have their own bus with their logo and everything else on. I would love to see that. That's just a vision of mine, and I think that's giving some pride to Waukegan as well as those kids that get on that bus. Instead of doing that, just all the time have a yellow bus taking them to different schools. I think Stevenson, Moneyline, wherever they're going, they need to see us as a district, the Waukegan Bulldogs bus. Put a Bulldog on that bus. That's just a thought.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. And I do recall what you're saying. We did look at that at one point. We were analyzing how often we could use the training, specialized training outside of the yellow bus, and also the maintenance and upkeep costs. But we'll certainly look at that again with the support of the superintendent.
You got a basketball team, you got a football team. it could be used quite a bit all summer long. But with that Bulldog logo on it, taking our boys, our girls, wherever they go to all these different schools, to me, that's a sense of pride. And that's so, and as far as I'm concerned, it's not a waste of money. You're using it for the babies. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to stress to the board that we talk about supply and demand. Transportation has been a concern throughout the whole country. Not only, and fortunately Waukegan has had success with this, but not only are the drivers in shortage, so are the buses. So this particular group has held the yellow bus you see quoted here for us, so we can ask the board to take action on it, as opposed to having a 9 to 12 month lead time for another bus that becomes available. So I did want to mention that to you all. Ms. Williams has maintained her partnerships, and they are holding this yellow bus for us, so we have access to it starting next year.
Thank you. Next up is, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
Quick question. So are these buses, all three of them, fitted with AC and Wi-Fi?
Is Ms. Williams here? No. She's shaking her head no. So if you're referring to all the buses or the activity buses?
These three that we'll be purchasing.
So no.
The yellow
AC,
and the 2 whites.
no AC for the yellow and the white, Ms. Williams? Yes. So these would match what we currently have. No AC for the yellow, air conditioning for the activity buses.
Okay, thank you. And Board President, there's a community question.
Did I miss my opportunity to speak? I kept asking if there was a sign-in sheet, and I feel like...
So this is not a board meeting. This is our Student Achievement and Operations meeting, which is a different format. It allows the individual public to raise their hand and be called on in order to ask questions. Is there something that, did you have a question on an agenda item? Was this just a general question?
Yeah, so then do that at the next board meeting where you sign up.
Yeah, if you need to, or, I mean, we're here. I don't want to stop you from giving you the opportunity, but it's not like a repair mark. So I don't
want to be rude to the agenda and any of the items or whatnot, so I don't want to be...
Okay, you sure? Because I don't. Well, it's not, basically, I wonder if you feel like it's the appropriate. We don't have, because this is not a board meeting.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So, yes, I would like to bring it to your attention if you allow me to.
I will allow, because we don't have a public comment sheet. Come on up.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hello.
Most of you on the board may know me, and I am love my community. I'm a mother of a son who has autism. He goes to an outplacement school. He's doing great, talking, and all that good stuff. So my concern tonight is I do still have 3 advocates that I work with hard and are at all the meetings and all that. They're great. I do want to bring to your attention, though, I don't like that when we have the district representative speaking to the school, it changes the vibe. It changes the interaction that now the school and I have. I feel like it's tainted. I don't like that, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. I also don't like the fact that our children who do go to outplacement schools and they come back home, the travel time, there's no after-school program for them to attend because, you know, the district, you know, you guys get out at a different time. There's more than enough children that I know go to outplacement schools that I'm sure we can come up with something for them to do to keep them stimulated, to keep them engaged in our community, because this is their district and this is still, you know, this is my home. I wanted to just bring that to your attention. And I also, directly to you, Mr. Ewing, I wanted to ask you, why have I never been asked to be on any committee to get, you know, input on what parents of my, you know, myself, children with special needs, I communicate with so many people as you, I do. And, you know, so I just feel like it's unfair to pick and choose who you want to hear from or who, you know, who you're asking questions from on different views. You know, we all have different views on things. We're all seeing one thing one way, but, you know, it's just, I would like to be a part of that.
Granted, right, is most of the time that's how it works, is I don't assign people to the committees outside of the board members, right?
Okay.
And so if there is meeting times that are posted, if there's a committee that you are interested in joining, they're always looking for people. So it's usually not a, sometimes the reason that the same people are participating is because they're the ones that are always volunteering. So we have to do better in communicating to give the opportunity, but that's not a board president or Brandon Ewing decision.
Okay.
So if there was a committee that you were interested in, the superintendent can reach out about your other issues. And she can
Wonderful,
take
because
that at the
or
time.
just to make the parents aware of when those board meetings are, what those committees are,
Yep.
because I'm not aware of that. And then I also have another concern I want to bring up, and I'll save that. So we'll just start here.
Okay.
But y'all be seeing me again because I have some concerns.
Thank you. So
but together we could, get some things accomplished. I'm not here to point fingers nor judge, but we do need to, think about those children and please consider them that are not, that are traveling and, and parents that don't speak English. Or again, I had to build my team. So there's parents that don't know that they can have support in IEP meetings or at meetings, and there should be something of that nature for those parents as well.
yeah, and I
Okay.
think so that's something that we can work on. I know Ms. Fabian is here, but hearing from the our diverse learner parents, there was a workshop on that. It was on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
So those are the things where working with parents who are involved, who have those other connections, we can spread the word. So
Absolutely.
thank you. And again, for the community, only reason I allowed this, there's not a public comment because of the format of this meeting, but I did not want to not give you the opportunity since you showed up tonight.
I appreciate that.
Can I ask you a quick question, if
Yes,
you
yes,
don't
yes.
mind? And you don't have to answer if you don't want to. I was just wondering, because you have mentioned that your student is an outplacement. Are you receiving the district emails as well?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No.
And I think that's something that maybe we can look into
Yeah.
as well.
Well, you know what? I get emails from Mr. Tim Kushner, but not as far as what's going on in the district. And I have people call me and they tell me, okay, this is what's going on. I just connected with your low incidence coordinator. She's been very resourceful, so I'm excited to see what she has. But other than what Mr. Kushner sends out, I don't know if that's just on the special education level, but not as in general in the district. And I also have a pre-K, so she's not in special ed, that I'm not getting those things. But yeah, I would like that.
No.
Care, and I'm my child's #1 advocate at the beginning and at the end of the day, and so I'm not going to stop fighting for his education and others, and ones that can't speak for themselves.
No, and we appreciate you. So
Okay.
you volunteered here on the public mic. I told you that is no favoritism.
Right.
You show up to those committee meetings. We're always looking for parents to participate. So
I appreciate
thank
you all. Have a great night.
You too.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. But I also, for your information, maybe you can check it out on YouTube and replay it if you need it again. But if you go to the WPS60.org, in the section in the banner, it has community, and then there's that drop down in there that says community committees.
Okay.
There has a list of all the committees that are currently happening and their days and times,
Okay.
and then like the main person to email to get added onto those lists.
Thank you for breaking that down for me, Ms.
Yeah,
Lucy. All
yeah,
right.
not a problem.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
All right. So the next item, 5C, is the second shipment of white paper.
Yes, we're informing the board with this item that we'll need to do another paper order, and we're providing the details here so you have it when we bring it for board approval.
Thank you. Next up is
That's a huge
Oh, sorry.
increase in the paper price, isn't it? Like a 45% increase?
Yes.
I hate to say it, but yes. Good evening, Superintendent. Good evening, board members. Good evening, community. Yes, it is approximately a 42 to 45% paper increase. I did do some research.
That's standard. I'm not saying
Okay.
it's not, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, should we consider ordering a second truckload at this time because I'm being told as a printer that prices are not going down, sourcing paper is not going to get any easier, and maybe we should consider buying.
I wish I hadn't heard that. I spent some time working with our vendors, like, what is going on? So part of the reason we're ordering a truckload of paper at this time is to be flexible for the demand as we end school and enter summer school. I believe the board has talked about space in district, and we're trying to be sensitive to that in terms of getting materials in and things like that for students and balancing our academic needs with our operational needs. So of course, our vendors are always happy to take more orders from us. but I'm happy to take the lead from the board in this in terms of ordering more or maintaining, some balance between those items.
So I guess, Superintendent, you all can talk about that. When you bring the recommendation forward, is do we increase the order because we want paper prices are rising, or do we just go with this? So we'll await the recommendation and.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see. Next up is 5D, which is the Brookside campus water main repairs.
Thank you. So we wanted to inform the Board of Education that there are water main repairs needed at Brookside campus. We currently have a situation there where we've had to take part of the system offline as far as the water main on the outside of the school. We do have water in the school, so don't get me wrong, but we want to make these repairs now since we're coming up on spring break as opposed to waiting till the summertime, because if we have further repairs that are needed and further failures, it will require us to shut down the domestic water service to the school. So we're coming up on spring break. We were made aware of this situation recently. We do not have an exact cost at this time. We're doing some exploratory work right now to see if we can pinpoint the scope of the work, but we feel it's prudent to proceed right now at this time.
Mr. Mayor, how is the city connected with what you talked about, the water?
Good evening. You asked, how's the city connected to this?
Yeah, I know they're doing a lot of main water breaks, and sometimes their lines, and sometimes it's a line with.
Yes, sir, they do. Yeah. And where they stop their limit of work is at the Buffalo box that turns the valve on and off to your line. Mm-hmm. When Brookside was built in the late 50s, they built it with a loop all the way around the building to service fire extinguishers and multiple entrances for the water main. Mm-hmm. That way, if there was a failure of one portion of it, we could valve it off, as we have just now done, and we can still maintain service to the building. However, if we have another problem with the remaining water main, we're out of luck. There'll be a long and painful replacement and repair that we don't want to come across. We'd like to repair this valve now and its associated water line, because we believe that we can do it at a smaller cost than a major water main repair all the way around the building. If we fix this portion, then we know we have a backup for future failures.
Ms. Wozniak?
And the city takes only responsibility for the water mains on the other side of the valves.
Mm-hmm. Is this going to dig up our new Monroe Street?
Gosh, I didn't think you were going to ask me that question. We've already been out there surveying the area to make sure that we can take out a square or two of sidewalk and leave our pavement alone. So we are gonna mess up the yard a little bit, but it's springtime, so we'll seed it all and get it regrowing. But, it's right at the pool doors.
Okay.
So it's kind of just off of the pavement and in the yard.
The one that we had a water main break a few years ago?
That broke in the front of Brookside over by Brookside Drive. This is out behind by the pool.
Yeah, like on right off of Monroe, right? And then there's the fence there that you can go over to the street a little bit this way to that fence.
That neighborhood water main is somebody else's. It's not ours.
Okay, so that
it runs
that
parallel
different
to
than
ours, but it's not ours. That one, if that one breaks, the city fixes it.
And
oh yeah, so a quick question. So the city at one point had mentioned that there is a need to update a lot of the underground water system because of how old it is, right? Mm-hmm. Have we done our analysis, or is this part of something that is part of that analysis in regard to something similar to that structure upgrades?
We test our water for chemicals that don't belong in it, of course, like lead, and we haven't run across any problems like that in district with any of our schools. We are in a position where many of our schools have water mains that are 40 to 50 years old, And just because of their age, they're going to have failures. If we know that there's a pending failure, we try to get in front of it and do a replacement when it's convenient, which is kind of what we're doing here.
Okay. Thank you.
I kind of have two questions. At the time that it comes for board action, will we know the like the scope of work, or will you only know when you start working in it and then you kind of see as you work?
Yes.
Okay. So then that goes to my second question, because I'm just thinking worst case scenario, we're hoping to finish the job by spring break end.
Absolutely.
Is there possibility, if anything, or what's the plan if 10th day comes around, school's gonna start, and the valve still is not fixed?
That is a possibility. It's one
So
that
what's
I
the-
would really hate to bring forward to you
Yeah.
at the next meeting. What we anticipate is that by starting a little early this week,
Okay.
we're going to scratch around and dig and try and find out what we can see without shutting off the rest of the system,
Okay.
to determine the extent of the replacements that we should do. We anticipate no less than $60,000 in cost for this work. Of course, it is all underground and we can't see it at this time. So hopefully it'll be limited to what we're planning to replace. And we won't have to spend more time with the repair work, which could run easily 5 days. If there's a major section of water main that's interrupted at 5 days, it's 3 days to chlorinate.
So the thing is, we have to do it.
We
right?
really
So
can't.
it's like we have to do it.
All these questions being asked towards you. When you get that backhoe out there, you don't know what you're gonna run into. Simple as that.
We have a pretty good idea, but you know as well as I do that when you start digging, you could find things that you didn't expect to find.
Did you TV it?
We have not TV'd it because it's not an empty pipe. It's a water main.
It's not a sewer, yeah.
We can't run a television camera down the water main.
So that's why I said, when you put the backhoe out there and get to digging, you don't know what you're gonna run into.
Right, that's why we want to look
I'm
before
saying that-
the
I'm saying that
big
not
dig.
just because, just to be saying it. I mean, I worked for the city 20-some years, and I don't.
Yes, sir.
And then you don't really get breaks until the wintertime, no way. That's when you really get your breaks.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get them in the thaw.
It's just my over experience in the wintertime. That's when
Thawing and
pipes
freezing.
get hard. That's
Yep.
when they break. But anyway, for the most part, I would generally say, well, when you get to digging, you don't know what you're gonna run into.
Yeah. So
That's why we're going to start
have Ms. Leguizamo
Saturday morning.
Final question, and then we can move on. My statement is we got to do it. So as my daddy say, it's not a matter of when, or if. It's a matter of when they break, and you need to be prepared to do it, and you got to spend the money in order to do it. Ms. Leguizamo.
Yeah, so my question is, aside from this, you have noted that there was water damage. So is this water damage like a water rise, or did this come in through some sort of cracks somewhere? So I'm just trying to understand have you also assessed the cost for the water?
It's a failed pipe that's a water main. It has a crack in the pipe that is buried, and because we could valve that section off and keep everything running, we've merely shut it off.
Okay.
It hasn't been dug up yet, and it hasn't been determined as to the exact quantity of how much has to be replaced. But we know if it's split in one place, it could very well run down the length of the pipe.
Oh, so there isn't any water damage inside the building,
No,
right? It's just
no.
some sort of maybe small amount of water, but not significant.
No, the leaky
Okay.
pipe was shut off, and it remains off until we make the replacement.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So there
for
is
that.
no
That's
water
my
damage.
question for President.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is item 5E, which is the recommendation to hire 4 safety officers at Waukegan High School, Washington campus.
Mr. Ewing, there's one more item. The fire sprinklers are out of service because of this water main break. So we don't want to leave fire sprinklers out of service. We want to repair them as quickly as we can, and that's why we're kind of forcing it into spring break.
Okay, I think that's what kind of went into my emergency situation.
It was already emergency because breaking. You got to do it.
You know what? We
But
get,
it's-
we get
So
emergencies.
what's going to happen when the students have to be in the building and now our fire extinguishers aren't, or the sprinklers aren't working or aren't
don't
in
want a
service?
fire.
You know what I mean? Like,
We'd
yeah.
we'd have 2 people sitting in every corridor watching for making sure there's no fire.
Thank you.
So that also adds to the urgency that we need to get it done right away. Thank you for your time.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So item 5E, which is the recommendation to hire 4 safety officers at Waukegan High School, Washington campus.
Yes, Mr. Ewing, the Safety Administration as well as the Washington Campus High School Administration have done an audit of the building as it relates to staffing level, position assignments, post, not just post throughout the building, but post by period and before and after school. And this recommendation is coming forward for staffing coverage from a safety standpoint to round out the needs of the building.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing this to us to hire more staff, because when I was over there, I know there's always been some blind spots where you got one safety officer trying to run back and forth, and I can see the need because of the fact that sometimes he can't be in one place at one time, so therefore when nobody's there, a lot of stuff goes on. So I see the need just from being over there my own self. So I'm glad you guys decided to do what you're doing. Thank you.
So my only question as it relates to this, and I guess it's more of a recommendation, is we're bringing forward 4. I know we wanted to look at it. Well, I guess I will ask the question: have we looked at this for the entire district?
We have looked at this, and I'll ask Mr. Wilson to come up and speak to that, but we've looked at this specifically at the sites where we currently have safety staff.
Right.
We started at Brookside, went to Washington, the middle schools as well. Safety staffing, these individuals, like Ms. Gaston here, who wear the yellow uniforms, aren't the only safety measure we have. We've brought forward the halo vape sensors. We've also looked at additional security camera surveillance, as well as some other policy, procedure, and trainings for staff. So we have done that audit at the sites where we have this, and we've looked at other safety and security measures at the sites where we don't have full-time safety staff.
And my only other recommendation is we talk about those blind spots. We also are aware of a bunch of recent situations that are happening over at both campuses. And one of the things that I'm hearing is as it relates to the restrooms and there being not a lot of, you can't be everywhere at all times, right? So one, why would we be waiting till July 1st? Where if we can get these individuals hired and trained, is there... is it a budget thing? Is it because if we need the people, I would suggest it doesn't need to be delayed. As if we're saying that there's a gap.
So this is a budget request for next year, as well as additional sub-safety staff. We'll discuss that suggestion with the superintendent for consideration, Mr. Ewing.
Okay, thank you. Next up is, sorry, Ms. Leguizamo.
Mr. Moten,
She'll be back.
okay, so to me, I appreciate this in a way, and I also have some difficulty with it in a way, right? Because when I'm looking at our safety officers and the amount of safety officers we have at our high school Washington campus, this is Washington campus specifically, right? We do have a lot out there, right? And there's a lot going on. But my concern is that I want to make sure that our safety officers are looking at our student safety from outside factors, right? Not just about what's happening inside. So I know that we're also in the midst of our budgeting. And if we need to take a look at our more restorative practices for our students and those disciplinary levels, and I don't even like to say the word disciplinary levels, but more restorative practices for our student population so that our security staff can focus more on outside safety measures coming into our school district. That's where I'd like to see where our safety staff is more focused at, right? It's not about, and I don't mind them doing the bathrooms, but I really don't like to see that our safety guards or our safety officers are monitoring bathrooms, right? Or monitor, 15 in a cafeteria. There are other measures. This right here, the safety officer piece to me is a Band-Aid, and it's not really a solution to a lot of what we're probably seeing. So I just wanted to say that really as kind of I think a more root cause analysis kind of needs to be done as to why we are wanting to request additional safety officers, and we're going to see more that it's in regards to some student activities that we probably need to do some more restorative practices on, if you get what I'm saying without saying it.
Yes, ma'am, I understand, and I do not want to compromise some of the safety procedures we have in place, because some of those are personal to the department. But we will come back with some of the analyses that were done with information, so you can see the picture of how we came to this determination. We have also started with the staff, and we were going to present this at a future meeting, but I will tease it right now as trauma-informed training that we see for other certified staff coming over to the safety department. We started that process in December, and we're hoping to finish it at the end of the semester so as not to disrupt their daily schedule. But we do understand that that's an important piece and component in how they interact with students and understand why they're doing some of the things they do, so we can hopefully address some of those situations at the lower level. But again, we've reviewed that with the union, the paraprofessional union, and we'll come back forward with more information on that at a future meeting.
Okay. Thank you for that. Board President?
And to back Ms. Leguizamo off, but also suggest it's a both-and approach. Is I think we have to be honest, as we're hearing from the community. Parents are worried, students are worried, and there's an escalation in both the buildings and outside in the community. And so while we look at those root cause analysis, we also must maintain order in our schools and in our school district. And so, I think we need to continue with restorative justice practice. Thank you for the teaser, Mr. Moulton, and we look forward to hearing that. But I do think that we must respond swiftly, and that's why, Superintendent, why you are out. One of the things that I mentioned is this item is set to take place at July 1st. If we've done it and we've assessed that we need it, my recommendation is that we don't wait till July 1st to onboard those individuals.
I agree.
So, thank you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Briscoe.
Are we saying, was this exercise also done at the Brookside campus so that we know that we have enough security at Brookside campus?
Yes, ma'am.
So there's no more security plan for Brookside campus? They are fully staffed there?
Yeah, the goal with this was to identify the staffing levels and the needs versus what they currently have, as well as take into factors what our attendance rates are in that department, as well as where we're positioning our substitute safety staff. And our substitute safety staff do have a home at Brookside campus, and then if they're not needed there, they get strategically placed throughout the rest of the district. But we did Brookside campus first, and then we went to other buildings in this analysis.
Well, I'm going to speak again. I went over to Washington campus as well as Brookside campus. When I got over to Washington campus, and I stayed there practically a whole day, and I watched all the movement, but there was a lot of areas over there that wasn't, they didn't have nobody posted. And so you had one person trying to leave the third floor, trying to go to a blind spot, and with that person doing that, it was by the time they get to where they was going, and when they left their spot, there was a lot going on. So it was some areas I seen I would have my own self that needed to be covered, and I think that's why they came about bringing some more additional staff in there. And to you, Lucy, you're definitely right. I think that and Mr. LeBaron brought it up. I think that our safety office could be, because since they're not climate control specialists, but they should have the same knowledge as our climate control specialists when it comes to
Restorative practice.
Well, it's restorative practice, but when it comes to intervening in situations, they should have the knowledge to be able to diffuse a situation and understand it when they do run into it, rather than just grab a kid by it and say, "Come on, we're going down to the office." They should be able to maybe even have some conversation through them throughout the day when they're moving, rather than just looking at them, going from class to class. So, but anyway, to get on a soap opera, I think that's why the staff is being requested for that particular Washington campus, because of the fact that a lot of blind spots over there. Thank you.
So again, my recommendation is why wait till July 1st? Let's go ahead and staff it. So 5F is Miguel Juarez furniture request. Information has been placed there.
And I do want to inform the board that this is for 7th grade at Miguel Juarez. We came previously for 6th grade. We will come with the library in 8th grade at a future meeting, most likely sooner than later, but this is for 7th grade at Miguel Juarez.
And item G, which is attendance at NSBA 2022 Annual Conference and Exposition. Wish I was joining you, but I will not be at this one. And, you know, just publicly is our IASB has actually left and separated from the NASB, which is the National School Board Association, and they have formed a new, I don't have the title for it, but acronym of, Cosmo group of national school boards throughout the nation to replace NASB, in which Illinois is a founding member. So I've always enjoyed the NSBA. I found like CUBE conferences and other conferences that they've done to be very, very informative, but they have had some challenges if you watch the news, and so I have no issue with this. Hope you gain a lot and bring a lot back, as I usually do when I attend NSBA conferences.
Will do.
The other items have been presented there as reports. So we have our annual comprehensive financial report. Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
So as I was taking a quick peek at the financial report here, I was just wondering, will we also be listing off assets in here that are not, that don't have student attendance in them? Because usually when I see annual reports, I see both, right? Used property and then kind of like maintenance type of property in a different asset list. So I was just wondering if that's something we're going to list on here.
Yeah, board president, board members, superintendent, community members. We include anything that has a value of $5,000 or above. Our auditor includes that in our asset control.
Okay, because I believe I didn't see those in there, which I'm looking at Welcome Center and the
It won't be
operations.
listed. It won't be listed, but a valuation would be in there.
Okay, I'll do another search for that.
Yeah, if it's not there, let me know, but I'm quite sure. If it's not there, it would be in another document that we have, because this is the award that we're submitting to GFOA. And then we submit one to ASBO International as well. And then, of course, the CAFR, or ASPR, as they've changed it because they changed the acronym, is something that the district chooses to do, because we want to have not only a cash basis, but we want to do an accrual basis, which is a little bit more thorough than the AFR. So we've done that for a number of years, and what you're looking at is accrual basis.
And this is something that will also be posted on our District 60 website as well, right?
Yes, ma'am. We post both the AFR and, how do you say that, Brian? Because they've changed it. ACFR.
ACFR.
Because they said that the CAFR was offensive, so we shouldn't use that anymore.
Those were all my questions. Thank you, Board President.
Thank you. You had a question, Rick?
The only one I'd just like them to look at, the age of buildings. When you look on that report, it shows Miguel Juarez, 1924. That's not correct.
No, and AEOC is not correct either.
No, just to take a look at the age of the buildings, because they don't look like they're correct, some of them.
Yeah, we're going to continue to analyze that. Thank you for catching that.
There's a lot more to be put in.
Yeah.
All right, so we got the treasurer's report that was presented, the schedule of investments, and our student activity and convenience accounts. With that, I want to thank you all for coming out this evening. We are right now as a board, so don't be surprised. I'm putting it out there, as we took next week off because we knew that it was spring break and we wanted to give everybody the opportunity to enjoy that. However, as with many things, we may have a special meeting, so board, be aware that there may be some items that cannot wait. And we also will be moving forward with the superintendent's evaluation before the contracted deadline, right? So those things are happening, be aware, and you'll be getting emails if you haven't already about those dates to make sure that we can accommodate. With that, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Motion was Mr. Riddle.
No.
Mr. McBride. Second was Ms. Gonzalez. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Meeting is adjourned.